Welcome everybody to the weekly Probate Mastery group coaching call. For anyone that might be new here, these calls are recorded and archived. One of the questions that came through this week was, how do I get these on my phone? And if you're not aware of it, if you go to probatemastery.com/podcast, I'll go ahead and step out there and say Kat has built one of the best damn podcast pages in the industry. I've always been a big fan of Amy Porterfield's work, and I think our branding and the way we present content is top notch. So she works very hard to make sure these calls are accessible to all you guys. So if you want to have them on the go between appointments when you're commuting, be sure to just from your favorite podcast platform, iTunes, Spotify, everywhere, you can subscribe so these calls will actually follow you between appointments. So as far as the theme this week, something that I saw come up a couple of times was people asking questions about leads. And one was a Canadian who wanted to take this course and wants to be in this niche, but she's not sure how to get leads because there aren't any lead providers. And most of you guys, I would assume, probably have automated your probate lead gathering, but it's not technically necessary. I know there are people on this call who are getting their own leads, whether that's through a researcher or through some other third party. I obviously was one of the founders of all the leads. I've sold my shares in that company. So not here to have a commercial for any one lead company, more so to anyone who is a certified probate expert who has taken probate mastery. You're stuck in the mess of gathering your own leads, or you're not to that point yet. You took the course and you're trying to figure it out. If you are stuck with leads, the leads you have aren't producing, or you don't have a way to get leads, or you can't afford leads, there are obviously lead companies out there, and Kat will drop a link in the chat right now. And then the show notes, we have a post that kind of assesses the top 5 probate lead companies in the industry. And I think objectively, all the leads is one of those because we do believe they have most accurate data. It's not the most timely, but it is wrapped in a system. But it's just a fair analysis of the 5 top places you can pay for probate leads. Since I started in 2012, I have yet to meet a single person where I would say, you should go to the courthouse and gather your own data. If you have online data access, sometimes you can do that and you can use a virtual assistant to do that. But otherwise, you should be outsourcing this to someone, whether it's a company or whether it's an assistant that you pay. Your time is probably not best spent as a court researcher, unless you want to be in that average income level of the average realtor. How do you get leads if you don't have access? If you live in Canada, if you can't afford them, if a lead provider is locked out in your area, building a referral network is the quickest path to a closed deal, period. Leads have a cash conversion cycle of 60 to 90 days. A good qualified referral can have a cash conversion cycle in days, but inside of 30 days. And John Fraker, I'm glad to see you here. Connecting with people like John Fraker, like attorneys that are running at the top of their class and service, like that really empathetically care for their customers. They're looking for the same in their vendor partnerships. So if you can find those attorneys who are very knowledgeable, very professional, have a high standard of service and connect with them, you can get deals in weeks. You can have closings and then just make a commitment to reinvest that into, your lead side. But if you're in Canada, if you're in one of those situations, Probate Mastery will teach you and this community more importantly than the course. In the course, we might talk about it, that's an hour combined. But the more important part is being part of this community. So sharing ideas, raising your hand and asking for help, telling people what you're trying, whether it was a success or a failure, sharing what techniques you have and lead generation. And that's something that mainly comes from the people joining the community, our estate professionals mastermind, before they actually realize what mastery is and jump into the niche. So just a reminder, leads doesn't have to be a stumbling point, but other conversations we have here about super competitive markets, investors beating you to the punch. If you're in any of those situations, focus on building that referral network first, and then you can always go backfill with leads. But I've coached people and watched them build businesses in markets with 2 or 3 leads a month and build a better business than they've ever had, more revenue than they've ever been able to achieve.
One thing that I do in other markets that I'm, investing in, almost every major courthouse for a county, larger counties, is going to have some kind of court index newspaper where that stuff is published basically daily. So I have a couple of markets that I invest in outside of California. And I mean, these are the gazettes and the stuff that absolutely nobody reads, including most attorneys, unless you have something pending. But it lists every single day a list of new wills published. Every state has some kind of notification process for when a new probate is filed or whatever. And it'll have relevant information on the people who filed it. You're probably going to have to do or delegate to a VA, skip tracing of the right people. But at least you're going to be a fairly inexpensive way of getting at least the rough info if you want to take it from there.
What we found when I tracked every single customer experience metric and all the leads, what I found is folks who came through Probate Mastery first and then got access to leads, whether they gathered them to that became subscribers, their tenure was 4 times longer than people who didn't have the training. So with the course, knowing what to say to them, it made their leads far more valuable. So if you've already taken this course and you haven't gotten the leads in place, let's set that as a goal, like a personal goal. Like, let's get some leads in your hands, whether that's through building a referral network, finding a way to gather them at the courthouse yourself, or using one of these third-party companies to deliver them to your inbox or CRM. There's lots of ways to get that done. And also, if you're really in a bind, we've had several investor realtor teams where they'll actually partner up, split the leads and marketing costs, and use the methodology that we teach here. All right, Johnathan Hawkins, I'm curious to hear an update from you, sir.
How you doing?
I'm well. How about you?
I'm doing fantastic. So
tell us about your progress.
So I actually did something that Kat and David had challenged me to do. I did a video in front of the clerk's office.
How many takes?
3.
Nice.
Good
takes. Job, man.
3 takes. 3 takes. One take, and the bus came and sat right in front of me. You hear the engine going. I was just like,
and it had another
really?
face on it, didn't it? It was like, need to sell your house.
It was just the engine and then a couple of guys. I'm doing so many double duty here, but I'm getting some traction from that. Believe it or not, I'm getting a lot of notoriety. I got people calling me in different states, wanting me to sell their property, asking about probate. Let's
talk about let's talk about how you produced it, because we discuss this idea often, and I challenge people all the time, get into video. So how much post-production did you do? How much editing? Where are you hosting it? How are you using it? Like, where'd you get all that traction so quickly with it?
Just simple recording, did some editing on iMovie, and saved it to my iPhone, uploaded it to Facebook, made it public, and also to TikTok and Instagram.
And the people who reached out to you out of state, the unexpected ones, which platform did they come from? Do you know?
Probably either Facebook or Instagram.
That's pretty amazing. Like, so you got to take notes. I mean, we tend to focus our inbound strategies largely around Facebook and YouTube because that's the most obvious video places. But the tech world is quickly realizing the power of video, and almost all platforms, allow you to host that now. So how long was the video, Johnathan?
60 seconds.
That's perfect.
It was right under a minute.
And for anyone on here who has been issued a challenge to go make a video in front of your courthouse, the idea is to create a video that's disruptive in a good way, because they have an emotional connection with that scene, with that backdrop, because they've been there likely in the last 60 days. They have actually seen that. You've seen the videos where people have flashcards or they're waving their hands and doing this bogus crap to get your attention. That's just not good marketing, right? This is something that subconsciously we can get them to identify with the scene and be like, whoa, I was just there. Who's this guy? And then you speak to them as a local voice, as the local expert, and explain to them why you're at the courthouse every Thursday and what it is you're trying to offer to the community. I have not really used TikTok, so I'm really happy that you did that. I'm getting #old, I guess. Cat keeps trying, but there's just too many. That's pretty awesome. You got some traction on that. I'd be curious to see longer term if that holds up. Like, if it gets buried, that's the one thing that YouTube is better at, is taking old videos that have value and continuing to rank them up, where the other platforms like Instagram and TikTok, at least in my perception, just bury everything. It just gets lost in the constant barrage, right? So I do want to see you get it on YouTube, because
I'll put it on today. I'll put it on YouTube today. I'll probably go back and put my number at the end of it and repost it different other places, maybe groups, but definitely back on or maybe pin it somewhere to my page, my personal page. So it will be still be there for a while. To try to keep it a little fresh before doing another video.
Let's talk about how you're using it throughout your marketing. Once you get it on YouTube, embedding that into a page on your site where you can drop a link, or you can buy a domain. So you could buy the domain like DallasProbatePro.com, and then just go into wherever your host and just redirect that to the page on your website. The reason buying that domain with a redirect is easy is you can put that on a postcard. So if this sounds too good to be true, or if you want to know what help your family can get, go to DallasProbatePro.com, and then it's really easy to remember, and they'll be able to go direct to that page on your website. And then there below the video, your call to action should be, my phone number is at the top of the page. Feel free to stop the video and call me at any time. Otherwise, pick a time that's convenient for you, and I will reach out to your family. And if you use the link below, that'll set up a video call if you would prefer to meet over video. Once you land them on that page, give them a couple of ways to reach you. They can call now, or they can have you call at a time they choose. That's a really good way to use these.
Would you use the probate website that I have through all the links?
Yeah, I mean, I would just add a page, put it on your about page. It sounds like, is it a generic, like, if you don't mind, share the kind of the basic script, like what did you say in 60 seconds?
Basically, it was like, hey, I'm guys, I'm here. We come here every month before probate because people who are going through probate really don't know what to do. So that's where we're here. We have a team of professionals that are here to serve people. I help them get through the probate process. I named a couple things, you know, and so guys, if you have any questions about that whatsoever, I'm here for you, and just hit me up, inbox me or whatever, I'm here. Boom. And that was it. Real quick, it was part of the USP, and I rolled with it like that. I just grabbed some things from the USP, put it in there, use my personality, use the backdrop, and made it about 60 seconds and in and out.
So do you have an about page?
Yes, I do. Yes.
Okay, so if it fits there, go ahead and put it on the existing about page. Otherwise, you can make a sub page to that, a child page that says how we help. So this is about Johnathan, Big Jayhawk, as you put it. And like, this is about me. This is about my service. And you know, how it works would be a name for that page. So you would have the video. You would have the call to action that would book them directly into your calendar or your phone number prominently displayed, give them a choice. And then below that, here are some of the ways we commonly help families, and list those services that aren't real estate related first. Like, show that we help families understand the probate process and navigate the non-legal aspects of that. We help families get personal property sold. We help get, you know, so, and but go down through and give them a sampling of some of the things that they probably wouldn't expect somebody to offer. And you don't have to mention real estate, because they're on your website. They're going to figure that part out. So don't be so eager to say, we sell homes for top dollar and faster than anybody else. Like, try to step back a little, build that relationship, and really show them what you can do for them. So video, phone number, call to action, list of features, and then if you have testimonials, get those in below it. And this is a tool that I have actually fallen in love with, guys. If you've got Facebook reviews in general, a really good tool that I like, Trustpilot is one. I ended up choosing Embed Social. And Kat, can you drop a link to everybody in the notes? Embed Social will aggregate multiple sources of reviews. They have some really good widgets that don't hang up your website. Plug them right in. So we aggregate reviews from, you know, Facebook, our own forums, type forums, different places. So you can actually set up multiple channels to be shown in one place on your website. So one might have a Facebook logo, the other may have come from your website, the other might be from a survey form that you filled out. But that's a really good way to, as you build reviews, your sales page gets stronger because you just get more and more reviews on that page. So use a tool like Embed Social to aggregate those reviews for you.
I just want to add, with Embed Social, it also adds depth to your Google search results, because it will populate your 5-star, whatever your rating combination is, right within the search results. If that page that you embed social on ranks in a search result, they'll see 5 stars under the piece of content. That specific page, that piece of content is really valuable, and it stands out visually in the search results page.
Yeah, we used it for 6 or 7 months before we figured that out, didn't we? Great tool. It's cheap. I don't know, it's $15 or something like that, but it's worth it for the social proof. So as you get reviews, and we can reissue that challenge. If you guys have ever been told you did an incredible job for us, thank you so much, and you didn't get it in writing, you need to go back and get it in writing. And if you can, get it in a video. It's so powerful with social proof and your next deal and your next deal and building attorney relationships. Like when somebody sees these public facing gratitudes, they can't help but know that the community actually finds value in your service. So Gary, I'm not sure who was first, but you guys feel free to jump in.
Gary was first.
Okay, Gary, what you got? Sorry, I keep missing you, man. My neighbor, everyone found out I was home, so they're showing up. So I missed you again last night.
No worries. Hey, first I want to do a shout out to, hey, Tom, how are you? Partner. And Dave Gwynn sent me a friend request on Facebook. I didn't know who he was, so I was like, I next him. So send me another friend request.
You guys should actually connect. Dave Glenn is in one of those markets where he could really benefit from your skill set. Dave, this is a guy that knows how to take an investment deal when everyone else says it's overpriced and you can't make any money on it. He can unlock profit in a deal through design changes, contractor relationships, being a good negotiator. And if that doesn't work, he's a world champion arm wrestler. So he'll just whip the guy's ass until he gets the price he wants.
Perfect.
At
I'll resend
135.
that.
Hey, I also wanted to tell you, did everybody hear about California? Anybody out there in California?
Oh, there's all kinds of things happening out here.
You're so specific today, Gary.
Well,
Are you talking about SB9 or are you
Yeah,
talking
everything
about
is happening out here. Wildfires, earthquakes,
right?
you know.
Right.
They just
But if you're talking
right.
about the IRAs, yes, it's a
They-
hot topic right now.
They upzone single family houses. Any single family house now in California can be converted up to a fourplex at $2,000 a month for a 2-bedroom. California
The minimum?
struck gold again.
Pretty huge. I mean, it's interesting like that we're going
I
back
think
to
they
19
passed that about 2 weeks ago or so.
Yeah, this is like
SB9.
1951 all over again.
The larger picture on that is my product works perfectly for that scenario because you could go in, take my product and learn how to
Yeah.
convert.
No kid. So tell them about the one that the pad split or the one, you know which house I'm talking about. Share the numbers on that deal.
When I converted into a boarding Airbnb.
Yeah.
Yeah, well, which is going to lend to my next conversation about this crazy that's going on. So I bought this house for $40,000 and it was a dysfunctional 4-bedroom, 2-bath. And it was not in a war zone, but you could hear the gunfire from there. I tried to wholesale a deal at $60,000, converted that into a highly functional 6-bedroom, 2-bath boarding house / Airbnb that has had a waiting list on it since I've opened it. And I generate about $4,000 a month renting the rooms out. And then
Just to be clear, that's gross or net?
that's gross.
What was the gross market rent for a 4-bedroom, 2-bath before you did the design changes?
In that neighborhood of almost $1,500.
Okay, you went from $1,500 a month to $4,000 a month.
Yeah. And
Okay.
my
I'm
PITI
sorry.
is only $1,000 a month.
But you have a PITI because you did a cash out refi and you took
Right.
away how much from the closing table?
About 50 grand.
Okay, so free house, $50,000 and $3,000 a month on positive cash flow on one deal.
Yeah, that was a score. I had this house that I purchased and it's in such bad shape. I went to a hard money lender and he backed out. Then I went conventional and they backed out. They appraised it at 135. They got scared. They said they would only give me 70. And then they said, no, we're not going to do that. And so my broker, I called him, my loan broker, and I said, look, I'm getting ready to renovate the thing. They're picking it apart. I'm going to renovate. He says, well, what are you going to do? Well, let me show you. And I sent him the plans and the specs. I was going to flip this house. I paid 50 for it. I'm going to put 60 into it. The new ARV is going to be around 230. So I was going to just sell the property, but I ended up, this lender said, we valued it at 215. We're going to go ahead and give you $165,000. So I'm pulling my profit out, really. I'm going to have a 110 all in. I'll put 50 in my pocket. after I complete the renovation, I'm going to rent it now. I was going to do a flip, but it doesn't make any sense because if I sell it for, $215 minus all my costs, I'm going to end up with about 50. Then I have to pay the tax. And so I didn't end up with less. So now I'm going to borrow that money and then I'll refi at the low rate and I'll pull out, I won't be able to pull any more cash out, but I'll be 160, 165 all in, 50 in my pocket. I'm going to rent it out for about $1,600 a month. My PITI should be right around 900, maybe 1,000.
So you've touched on several things that we've talked about in the last 2 or 3 calls. One, don't ever take what a rejection from a bank as a final answer. It's just their first answer. You have to demonstrate that you are less risk than they're perceiving and that there's more equity in the deal. 2, what if you could do this even if you're not doing this for yourself? What if you could step in and create these massive, like they can get $3,000 more a month. They can get all of their money, basically do a cash out refi, do the inheritance distribution to the family anyways, and they still keep the house. So even if the family doesn't want to sell the house, you can still do things like this. So we're talking about getting deals like financial arbitrage, using banks and ways that you can help them trust you. But building equity, whether that's for you or whether that's for the family, you can use thinking outside of the box, design changes, relationships to lower your cost and raise the value. And Blue Ocean strategy, that's a value innovation strategy. So thanks for sharing that, Gary. We can drop a link to Gary's site so you guys can connect with him. It's interesting you and Dave Glenn have connected. I think you guys could help each other a lot. Nina, thanks for patiently waiting. How can we help you today?
Yes, thank you. I'm working on court confirmation deals and bringing them to my investors, but a lot of my investors push back. And I had a conversation with one of my investors who's been in the business for a very long time. And she said, well, the thing is that somebody already has it under contract and the price they have is probably the max of where we would go, if not lower. So that's almost like no point of us going in and bidding. So I'm curious what anyone has to say about court confirmation sales, presenting them to your investor buyers as opportunities. There's some nice deals on there. I had a conversation with another one of my investors today, and he's excited about one of them that is on a 7,500 square foot lot. That's a 2-1 that you could easily convert to a 3-2 or just add another one and now you've got a duplex. And I ran the numbers using your 75% minus profit, Chad. In our market, every one of my investors uses the 70% rule. They don't fess up what their average cost is because it changes and everybody's different, but they use the 70% rule. And I used the 75%, and there was enough of a gap of over $117,000 on this one deal. And it's in mid-city, which is a nice area, $117,000 gap between the maximum allowable offer and the minimum overbid. So in other words, there was enough room to go up incrementally up to 117,000 before hitting MAO to get this deal, because the ARV was at least 116, and that's my conservative number. It's actually 1175, but I like to play with a little bit lower number. And so my point is to all of this is, that's what my one investor said, oh, well, it gets under contract. And what they've put it under for is probably where we would be, if not lower. So we don't bother bidding. So it's one of our check boxes. We say, if it is, court confirmation, we say no to it. The other guy, he's interested because he didn't know about court confirmation, but he also uses, for the most part, a 70% rule. So feedback on how I can move investors towards actually seeing the opportunity in these deals that other investors are getting.
Okay. First up, I want to go back and kind of set the context here. So explain to everyone what you mean, like how overbid works in your market. And if you're not in California, this probably won't apply to you. It's way simpler for you. But some folks might not understand what the overbid process is.
Sure. So a personal representative who has limited authority, meaning they have to go with the court to confirm the sale and do an overbidding process, lists the property with an agent, and it has to be published in the MLS. When it goes under contract, where it can't be double-ended, the buyer has to have their own representation on these. It goes under contract. When that happens, the agent then contacts the attorney for the case and says, hey, we're under contract. It gets published in newspapers at least 3 times within a 10-day period. And the MLS is updated with that not with the contracted price, but the minimum overbid price, which I'll explain the calculation in just a moment. And then it's stated in there, once they get the court confirmation date, which the attorney pretty much just goes to the clerk and says, hey, we're petitioning this. Can you get me a date on the calendar? They get the date within 3 days, which is usually at 30 days out. The agent posts that in the MLS that, hey, the court confirmation is on this date. Now it's been published in the newspaper and on the MLS to let anyone else, the public, know that, hey, you can come and bid on this. And then they state the minimum bid is the list price, because they've updated it to the new list price, which is the minimum allowable bid. So the minimum allowable bid has to be, it starts with the first $10,000 is 10% of that. So 1,000 is added on. Then you take 5% of the balance minus 10,000. You take that amount and you add it on. That becomes the minimum allowable bid. However, at the time of that first under contract buyer, the listing agent would have had to say, hey, this is the probate referee's appraisal, the referee's appraisal of the value of the property, except if that appraisal was at time of death and it's been more than 1 year, then it will have to go for reappraisal. And if it goes for reappraisal, then the new offer amount, minimum allowable bid, actually has to be higher. And the current offering buyer would have to come in higher. So that has to be verified before they actually accept the offer to ensure that that 1 year hasn't passed, because they do have to get the reappraisal to current market value to determine the minimum amount that they'll allow, because it has to be 90%. Sorry, I did leave this out, Chad. It has to be, the offer has to be 90% of the referee's appraised value. So if it's a time of death appraisal a year ago, and a year later it's an extra $100,000, well, it's probably not going to be 90% based on that first appraisal. So that's why the reappraisal is required, to make sure you're at 90% minimum on that first offer. Then the minimum bid is then calculated after that, the minimum overbid. So I hope that wasn't too fast for everybody, but ultimately, let's say it's been reappraised. Now the minimum overbid is the new listing price. They've calculated, added in the 1,000, added in the additional 5% of the balance minus 10. And now you have the minimum overbid. On this particular 2-1 deal, 7,400 square foot lot, 2,000 square foot building, a unit, 2-bedroom, 1 bath, but it can easily be a 3-2 conversion, because it's got a dining room and a living room, or dining room and a second room that's the living room. So you can convert, a lot of these are done here, 3-2 conversions. And then you just throw in an extra bathroom, boom. Or why not go ahead and double it and throw in an extra structure? So 702 is the minimum overbid. And the MAO I came up with on a 116 ARV using the 75% minus 50,000 profit would be 820. If you wanted to do 100,000 profit, it would be a little bit lower, but still you have a little bit room there to continue with the bids.
Awesome setting of the stage. I just want to make sure everybody's keeping up with the conversation and understands that process. So now what I'll say is you need to build a better buyers list, because there's obviously room in your deal, right? I'm curious, the folks you spoke to, are they fix and flip investors, or are they long-term buy and hold?
Fix and flip investors.
That's the problem. I knew the answer. It was rhetorical. So you need to be connecting with short-term rental investors, if that's allowed in your market. You need to be connecting with corporate rental investors if it's not. So they're running a pad split strategy, or they're running a boarding house strategy. But just like the story Gary Nash shared with us, he took a house that would rent for $1,500 and he rented it for $3,000, and he pulled $50,000 in cash out, right? So everyone else said that's not a deal. You're a fool. You're going to lose your assets. And he turned it into the most profitable asset in his portfolio. So you just need to raise the bar for the investors you're working with on these types of deals. Keep your fix and flips investors. There is a place for that. But I will say, and not to piss anybody off here, but the more sophisticated, more financially savvy investors I know will never flip a house, because it all gets eaten up in taxes. I mean, it's a bunch of work, it's a bunch of risk, it's a bunch of urgency. And then the IRS takes half your damn money, right? Half your profit, unless you go buy another asset then that you can depreciate, or that you can, harvest those tax benefits. So more sophisticated buyers never sell. They ride it until they die. Of course, in your state, that might be changing because you've already robbed the step-up basis from your citizens. But Like a lot of investors will build portfolios, build them in trust, and they intend to die and pass that on. It's a cash flowing asset forever. They don't have a disposition strategy. They're going to use it for tax savings and as a piggy bank. So they're going to buy it with cash. They're going to refinance it, pull their cash back out, and then probably put a line of credit against it or do a larger cash out refi to go do another deal. So you need to find those people. A good place to find those people is to network with commercial brokers who have a CCIM designation. That's the top shelf, right? Those are the guys who work with sophisticated buyers. A lot of those guys are unsure what to buy in commercial assets right now, especially in your state. We're in the fourth quarter of the year. So anyone who has a 1031 exchange, anyone who sold and made a big gain is facing earned income tax on that gain. What are they doing now? They're looking for assets to purchase, right? They need to burn up that and get assets. So if they're not finding it in the commercial space, if they're not finding their multifamily deals, let's go sell them packages of houses. Let's sell 10 at a time. Because if you can package those together, and if like with back to what Gary's point is, if you know how to hand them drawings and basically a scope of work for the design changes, it's like, here, man, here's what you're not seeing. It's like putting on 3D glasses when you're sitting at the IMAX, like, why is this damn screen so blurry? And you put the glasses on and boom, you're in a whole new world, right? Putting that in front of some investors, really sophisticated investors that know how to unlock profit, they'll already know, they're already wearing the glasses. But like what Gary was talking about, looking at it through a different lens, looking at it as a high end, fully furnished, all utilities paid, like travel nurses make incredible tenants for these types of assets. Digital nomads can make really great assets. Like in your market, you can set up like incubation houses and have digital nomads who come there, and it's a shared communal space where they all are working in the tech space. They're all, independently employed, but they help each other. So connect with those kind of people. So CCIMs is one really good place. Connect with the more sophisticated brokers who are connected with the capitalized buyers. The other, here I go again, community banks. So if you can network with the commercial lending side of a community bank, those people usually carry a title of vice president. It doesn't mean they're second in command. That means they're a loan officer usually, but connect with them. Title companies who work with more sophisticated buyers. The other idea, I actually accidentally built a course on this just 4 nights ago, and I will actually share it. It's never been shared. Grant Cox, I don't think is here tonight. He asked me this question on a private coaching call. I had like, here's the 5 things I want you to focus on. And what we were looking to do is get him into a more sophisticated rank of buyers to pick up these probate assets in a hurry. I'm like, holy crap, I think there's a course here. But I took some of the things that I've done that really helped me connect with more qualified, sophisticated, long-term buy and hold investors. And so CPAs is another. So if you can find a CPA that's in the real estate space, he's the guy that looks across the table at a multimillionaire and says, dude, you need to go buy shit like now, because you have 90 days to wipe out this tax liability, or Joe Biden's getting that money. So do you want to go buy a bunch of real estate, or do you want to pay these taxes? Well, I want to buy real estate. Well, you better get started. So if those CPAs, those more sophisticated CPAs that already have, real estate portfolio clients, if they know you're there handing them deals on a silver platter, like make a deal sheet, as long as it's not against state law. I'm not sure in California, but put those deals into a sheet with your name on it and drop them off. Door knock CPA offices, door knock CCIMs. Door knock registered investment advisors. Anyone who works with wealthy people this time of the year is trying to find a way to get them into assets. And in a competitive market like this, where we've extended all this easy credit. So there are people who they're fools and they'll overpay. I mean, why do you think a multifamily cap rate is in the 3.5 range in Los Angeles?
Yeah, 4 is the max.
It's because these fools will buy a 3.5 cap because they're looking at the internal rate of return, not the cap rate or not the gross rent multiplier. Those fools are not, instead of paying taxes, they're collecting free apartment buildings.
Right.
So it's understanding where that capital is. Think about where are the high net worth individuals and which professionals do they need help from, and then go build your network with those professionals to find your way to them. You may or may not pay referrals along the way. You're probably not going to need to. You can, just with all of our vendor relationships, you reciprocate the value by sending your high net worth guys back to them for services, right?
Yeah.
We'll
have a lot of those connections through my LinkedIn. I actually have talked to probably 3 CPAs this week. So I do, and actually have done commercial real estate myself. And I do have some high asset investors, but they're doing syndications. So that's usually where they're looking to park, but I'll talk with them, and I'll also reach out to those in my network who I know.
So you're saying they're passively investing in syndications, or they're sponsoring?
Some are sponsors and some are passively investing.
Yeah.
Yeah. But I'll look through. I hadn't put the 2 and 2 together, that for these court confirmations, I'm really looking for buyers who are looking to park their money, basically.
Yeah.
Yeah. So that's awesome. I would love to see what you put together around that. The follow-up to that I have is, now that I'm thinking from what you said and the conversations I've had with my 2 flippers who are very experienced, doing a lot of great things, long time, why wouldn't it be appropriate, or would it be appropriate to convert them to be those types of investors?
They should.
Yeah. I mean, how would I go about doing that? I guess it's a matter of just presenting it, like having somebody like Gary's plays in front of me.
Ask them who their CPA is. Find that CPA that really, really knows how to take advantage of depreciation, accelerated depreciation, cost segregation, that understands that. And like I said, probably the quickest path to that CPA is through a CCIM. Be like, hey, who do you trust to do taxes for your wealthy client? That's probably the fastest path to that sophisticated real estate CPA. And then just say, listen, I found an amazing CPA that is wiping out, like my CPA, and I passively invest. I'm not actively investing anymore, not like I was, but I've got my effective tax rate down to 19.3%. When I say that to a high net worth individual, they're like, what the hell? How? I'm like, you should go talk to my guy. And I sent him just last week a business owner friend of mine who she's done extremely well. She's his newest client because people come to me to ask it. So if you can become that resource, like if you're like Nina, the lady that saved Joe a $500,000 tax liability last year, word's going to get out, right? Like when those guys are talking, they're going to be like, hey, this is, Nina's not just a realtor. You need to call her. She understands tax liabilities. She understands straight line versus accelerated depreciation. She knows how to go find cost seg projects or opportunity zone projects where you get those, like understanding the tax benefits for the high net worth and the ultra high net worth. You're playing in a whole different class of buyers, and they probably aren't aware of these assets, right? They're probably not in the residential space, because why the hell compete and do all this work to get these deals when I'm an accredited investor and I can step into a syndication with a 3-to-1 multiple over 3 to 7 years and triple my money in that time period. And I've become that guy too. But when Gary Nash tells me he took a $40,000 house, turned it into a $50,000 front end paycheck, and then $3,000 a month in passive income, and he's going to pass it on to his kids and never pay tax on it, I'm listening, right?
Yeah, absolutely. Oh, yeah.
There's just going to be more zeros on those numbers.
Yeah, absolutely. And what you just described, that accredited investor, that tends to be their rote response to, why do I want to do that? Why do I want to play in residential? Yeah, a lot of the investors I talk to who are doing, I'm never going back to residential. I'm never going back to flipping, And it's because I didn't have the tool that Gary presented in terms of how to really find the money in the deal.
Yep.
Yeah. Thank you so much to both of you.
Yeah, so I will. I'll send you. It's just in a Word document right now. What I made this week, but I'll make that available to you guys, maybe as a Google Doc in case, because it's a living document. Like I said, I made it in 17 minutes because Grant was like, "Wait, slow down! I can't write fast enough." So, but I thought when I got done, I'm like, I think we could benefit. Like we could have a course out of this. So I'll get at least the outline and hopefully get you a course soon. Stephanie, you've been waiting. Sorry to keep you waiting. How can we help you today?
Okay, I wasn't even sure if I was going to talk, but I need to, so I'm going to. I have worked for an investor for the last 2 years. I was a coordinator for him. I did all of his phone calls. I did a lot of he's a wholesaler. He's not an investor. He's a wholesaler. Big difference. And so now I have my license, and I just got on with a broker that specifically was interested in me for my probate experience, which is great, but I'm super nervous and super intimidated because I feel like it's a whole different ball game when I'm approaching these people to list their home and try to get them the most money that they can, as opposed to trying to buy it for 70% of what it's worth. And I just was wondering if anybody here had some tips to maybe adapt my script a little bit. So I, typically just say, hey, I'm here to help, but then I pre-qualify them over the phone and I don't talk to anybody. I only did 2 deals with probate really over the last 9 months because it was 70% market's high and it just didn't work out. So is there any tips that anybody could give me?
I have some tips. I have
Okay.
tips, but it's not about scripts at all.
Okay.
The first tip is label your fear that's holding you back.
Okay.
And if you're willing to do that here in front of everybody, I'm willing to help.
Oh, so about
Only
I
you
think
know the
that-
answer.
I think that I feel like I'm under a lot of pressure to list homes, and I'm a brand new real estate agent, and that's scary because I don't really know how to list a house.
Okay. Well, step 1 is admitting it. So here's the deal. You've got experience that we went from 1.4 million licensed real estate agents to 3 million in the last, 16 months? You're not alone. There's a lot of people out there. Have you taken the whole probate mastery course? You heard my story.
Yes.
Nobody could have had less experience than me. And in months I was running, I had this as I was like, oh my God, this is the best business ever. So just forget all that. Like, let's talk about your worst case scenario. You get rejected by a nice family who meets you and says, no, we're going to list with your competition. So you already are getting rejected every day for every house in your market because you haven't listed them. You already have what you're most afraid of.
Okay.
You don't have the listings, right?
Right.
So it's kind of irrational to be afraid of what you already have and have been tolerating, right?
Yes.
So you get what you tolerate. Right now you're tolerating not having any listings. So go tolerate something else. Raise your standards and say, I'm going to get 3 listings. So what I'm trying to help you do is realize that most fear is irrational and it's not real. It's not a real threat to you, but it's not a real physical or emotional threat to you, but it is a threat to your income because you'll start to procrastinate and you'll hesitate to pick up the phone. You won't believe in yourself enough to write a bold PS line on the letter that says, I know that I am the best person in this city for your family to sit down with because nobody can help you as much as I can. Those little fears that might seem insignificant at the end of our careers are massive. They can make millions and millions of dollars of difference and keep you from reaching thousands of people with your service. So that's why I went all the way back there. You need to believe in yourself. You've got experience in an investor environment coming into the brokerage world. Most people don't have that ever. So you understand how that world works. You have an advantage on every single agent and broker who doesn't know the inner workings of an investor business. Because what do you know? You know how you did it, right? You knew how to close a deal at 60 cents on the dollar.
I mean, I did close 100 deals in the last 2 years. I mean, just
Okay.
only 2 of them
So
were probate in the last
who
9
knows
months.
how to sell against that better than you? What realtor could sell against an investor better than you?
None.
You speak both languages, but you don't have to sell against them. What I want you to focus on is the message in probate mastery of don't be Stephanie the realtor just because you have a license. Don't be Stephanie the investor just because you have experience. Take a deep breath, smile, and just be Stephanie. Like, just chill out and treat this person like your family said, Stephanie, this is a lady from my church. I found her crying in the parking lot. She's so upset about her probate. What advice can you give her? And that's how you enter a conversation.
Okay.
You confidently, you look them in the eye, even if it's on the phone, and in your mind's eye, you look them in the eye and you say, I know that I can help your family. I don't know how. Well, are you a realtor? Well, there's a lot of different things that we do. I own multiple companies and I help families in literally dozens and dozens of different ways. It starts with me understanding the family's goals. Then I can tell you what my role is. So you can run me away anytime. You can shut me up, hang up anytime, but I don't know what to tell you until I understand what position you're in. So if you can extend enough trust to me to answer a couple of personal questions, then I can tell you exactly how I can help your family. Does that sound fair? And then don't say a word. I want you to think about this. Deal with your fear first because it's irrational. You're in an advantageous spot compared to most new agents. I mean, you got 100 deals in a year. You got a hell of a lot of experience. So you need to get clear on what your statement, your value is. Or do you feel like you have a valuable offer to these families?
Yeah, I do. Absolutely.
Okay. So that's the biggest stumbling block I see. Most people see like what I teach and all these, you can do 50 different things to help. And they're like, I don't know how to do any of that stuff. Well, hell, neither did I. But you're not lying. You're not being deceptive. You have a community. You have all of us and you've got the course. Like if you move forward and you don't know how to connect with a CPA or a CCIM or any other acronym that we've talked about here to bring value to the family, Nina does. Come back here and ask her. Gary,
You
ask
just
him.
go, right? You type a letter and you have a postcard, and if they won't talk to you, then you give them your stuff, but you just go and you say, hey, this is what I do. Right.
Yep.
And then what?
You need to get clear on your probate USP, what we talked about in the beginning of session 2.
Okay.
So, hi, my name's Stephanie. I have a team of folks here in Roanoke that help families going through probate. And as part of that, we actually go meet with the probate clerk at the beginning of each month to find out which families need our help the most. So I had a few minutes today. I'm making some calls. So I'm really glad I caught you. I'm sure you've probably been getting calls from other people. This one's a lot different than those. We're a social enterprise here in the community. It really starts with us asking questions first and trying to figure out how we might be able to help you. We find most families in the beginning really struggle with a variety of different things. So what's been the toughest thing for you guys so far? Or any of 1 million variations of that. But you help them understand what they want to know when they pick up your letter or they pick up the phone call. Who the hell is this person? How the hell did they get my information? And why the hell are they bothering me when somebody died? And you can, if you do it the way most people do it, you'll continue to feed that negative energy and that distrust. But you can turn it off like a damn light switch if you say the right thing. And when you are empathetic to the position they're in, you understand how they feel, you understand the struggles of probate and how the process works, then you can craft that statement that makes them comfortable. Hey, my name's Stephanie. I actually just came back from the courthouse. I met with the clerk, and you're one of about 73 families that I have to reach. So I'm really glad I got you on the first call. Listen, I'll try to make this quick. In a nutshell, I've got a team of people right here in town that are put together just to serve families like yours. There's a lot of different ways we can do that. I know this probably sounds a little confusing. Hopefully it sounds different. If anyone else has called you, hopefully this sounds way different because I'm sure it is. Have you got just a few minutes to talk?
Okay.
And you can enter it a million different ways, but I'm covering the same points: who I am, how I got their information, why I'm reaching out, ending with an open-ended question, ideally an emotional question, like what's been the toughest thing for you guys so far? Or what's most intimidating about this to you? Or I'm sure the probate clerk explained the process to you, but what I find is most families are scared to even take that first step. Do you find yourself in that position? And we're accessing the emotional side of their brain, right? And we're disarming that defense that they've built up with other people that use that. It's a numbers game. You got my money, my money in your pocket. I'm going to hammer until I hear enough no's until I get a yes. That's the MO of most people. So you're going to be a stark contrast to that. So what I want you to go back and read and listen to this again. But I can see you've relaxed your body language. You're already chilling out compared to where you were in the beginning. You were like a cat in a room full of rocking chairs when you first started this. But have fun with it. Believe in yourself. Like, get rid of those irrational fears. They're not serving you, and they're sure as hell not serving your community.
Okay.
Rodger, Lecy, I think you got some words of wisdom coming here, Stephanie.
Well, I see we're running way over time, and I want to respect everybody's time. I think I found 3 phrases that really kind of sums up and really grabs the attention: solving problems, saving time, no extra cost.
That's amazing, Rodger. That's really good. So you're working that into your marketing everywhere, right?
I'm working that into everything that I'm doing. I'm facing so much more competition than I was 4 or 5 years ago. I'm trying to evolve it into investors, and I really want to get to know better and have one-on-ones with Stephanie and Nina to bulk up that part of my business. I've got about 4 or 5 investors that I work with, and we're running into NOI problems with buyers, and I've got several investors that I'm working with, not necessarily on probate properties, properties, but on other stuff that's off the market that they're looking for. Northwest Arkansas is the 4th fastest growing area in the United States, one of the best places to live. We're about to hit 600,000 in the 2-county area, and it's just blowing up. The inventory is just like 1 month's supply up to 500,000, and above that it's like a month's supply. So it's really kind of hectic, and trying to go divide my time into investors, probate, and investors, and find other ways to develop. I'm looking into expanding into the seniors market, SRES. So I'm finding myself really divided, and I need to kind of focus in on what the message is. And I think that's those 3 things right there, with the resources that I have, solving problems, saving time, no extra cost, is I'm trying to be working that into everything. You're welcome to use that, all of you, because it summarizes basically what I do.
That's amazing. So I actually came to a similar conclusion you guys probably have noticed in the last couple of months. And I thought, what is the common thread of all of these conversations? Because they range way wider than just marketing to probate leads like we used to talk about on
Right.
previous calls. And for me, it came down to work less, earn more, do good. And those are the 3 things that my heart wants to convey to each of you. I want all of you to work less. I want all of you to earn more and net more on every deal. Through the things we've talked about on this call is a perfect example of all of these things. So take what you've heard here, work less, earn more, do good. It's a concise way for someone to go, this is the community I want to be part of. So, even spending so much time and energy on branding, it took me a long time to really get to where I could concisely convey. So thanks for sharing that, Rodger. And for anyone else here, if you don't have that simple brand promise is basically what you're offering, that statement that if you share your time with me and allow me into your life, I will help you achieve brand promise. And for me, you guys are here. I promise I'll give you everything I got to help you work less, earn more, and do good in your communities and live your best life. Rodger, he's clear. His reputation is now attached to that brand promise. So whether you borrow his or you take inspiration from each of ours, you should have that brand promise in your offer to summarize what your value is. And we are 9 minutes over, and I already have calendar events popping up where Kat's saying, you got to go do this. So I do have to run, guys. It was nice to see a lot of familiar faces. Stephanie, thanks for coming. Thanks for having the courage to raise your hand. Hope
I'll be back.
All right. That's what we like to hear. I see some new faces. Terry, I recognize your name from this week. Hopefully you guys are getting a lot of value from the course. Gary Nash, thanks for being here. Nina, thanks for bringing some great ideas. Don Frakers, thanks for your contributions. And everybody else, thanks for being part of this community. Love these calls. We'll see you next week.